All right, hello everyone, and welcome to the Studio City Neighborhood Council Homeless Committee meeting for August 2022. I am Julie Houlihan, the acting chair. I will go ahead and call to order and call the roll. I am here, Jeff Hartwick.
Here.
Sandy Wooding-Kiley. Don't see her. Marcia Campbell is excused tonight. Ira Gold.
Here.
All right, and that's it. We do have a quorum. We have a smallish committee. So next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. And I did send those out to the committee. Can we approve those without objection? Any comments? Anyone, you want to raise your hand? Do we have to do that? All right, I will have those approved without objection. And next we come to the chair update. And for those of you who don't know, Luis Oliart, our chair for the last year, has stepped down. He left some very giant shoes that will be impossible to fill. He's kind of a legend in regard to his work with the homelessness in our area. He's knowledgeable, experienced, boots on the ground kind of advocate for both the homeless and all the stakeholders who live and work here in Studio City. I learned a lot from him last year on this committee. My main job on the committee has been to follow city council motions that we could support or oppose. Our committee presented 15 motions last year, 14 of which were passed by the board. And most of them were focused on helping people experiencing homelessness through street teams who assist with housing, personal services, job training, healthcare, mental health, and rehab services. We also supported the cleanup of encampments. And I think a key part of the committee's success was Luis's engagement with the offices of CD2 and CD4 and the county and state offices who provided these local engagement teams and practical services like trash pickup. And keeping up these relationships is going to be really important for the success of our committee. Luis had stated that his main goal was to clear the 7 major encampments in Studio City, and by and large, his effort was successful, but there are still hot spots that are popping up and some ongoing issues. I drove around on Saturday and I saw some camping at the Laurel Canyon underpass, by the LA River, right near the Moore Park at Laurel Canyon, at the LA River at Riverside, Ventura and Vineland, at the Studio City Library, and also the LADWP substation on Ventura near Arch. Now, these were nowhere near what they were a year or two ago, but just little things that we need to keep in mind. And we'll talk more about a couple of those sites later in agenda items 9 and 10. So I think it goes without saying that LA still does not have enough low-income housing, enough landlords who take vouchers, enough field teams to help people navigate their options, or enough law enforcement to enforce the laws that are in place. LA voters approved the huge HHH fund a few years ago, and most of us don't feel we see the benefits that we were promised. Tonight, some of the motions that we're going to look at from City Council call for reporting and accountability of some of the programs that are in place that are supposed to be helping people, and hopefully by evaluating those will help move things forward. As a committee, I think we're in agreement that we are obligated to people to help people that are experiencing homelessness, but also advocate for the stakeholders who live and work in the city. So helping all stakeholders in Studio City is our goal. As the acting chair, I'm still getting organized. I'm still setting goals, figuring this out. But as we move on to public comment, I would invite you to share your thoughts about our needs and priorities for Studio City. And I also want to thank our committee. Jeff Hartwick in particular has done a tremendous amount of work, and Ira Gold, thank you so much for all the work you've done in the past. And I look forward to continuing to work with you guys. So with that, I will introduce public comment. And if you'd like to make a comment, you can raise your hand, or if you're on the phone, you can press *9.
Julie, what's the time? How much time would you like to give?
Oh, you'll have 1 minute for comment. So, Bully Bull, what would you like to say?
But I don't understand. How come Scott gives 2 minutes and Brandon, and you only give 1 minute?
Oh, because she has something to hide, apparently.
Yes, I may be so. Today, Joel Arawir, Nori Martinez, that fat cow, the summer cow. Ooh, past a 500-foot ban on camping within any school or residential care facility. So we need to expand residential care facilities in all the businesses in Studio City.
Hey, that's clever.
Yes, just have a little area designating it a care facility, and then we can ban these assholes from the entire 470 square miles of the city.
That's really good.
Yes, it is. And that's why I'm an award-winning.
And that's time. Thank you.
These people are tough, aren't they?
Very tough.
Okay, Lionel?
Yeah, thank you, fellow board members. I'd like to make public comment regarding about the ordinance amendment that was passed today at City Hall. They passed the motion to further, I guess, quote unquote, criminalize homelessness near schools and daycare 500 feet. I think that the city needs to work with activists and nonprofits and at LASA, because they're not really doing a good job. I seen LASA today when I was out doing outreach for my job, doing something else, not homeless related, but it's just that these LASA employees, they're like, I rarely see them. And I think that the city should really do better outreaching with and coordination with LASA. I have been critical of LASA in the past because I don't think the agency is not doing enough, or maybe don't have enough resources. I don't know, but I just feel like this has gotten way too toxic. And
that's time. Thank you.
Thank you, Lionel. Appreciate your comments. Anybody else in the public that would like to comment? Okay, then we'll move on to the committee. Any committee members want to comment? All right, so next agenda item, comments by public officials. We do not have any public officials tonight. I did reach out to a few and they have promised to come to our next meeting. So we'll look forward to having them here to make a presentation next time. So with that, we'll move on to our motions that we want to discuss tonight. Ira, I think, is going to share the screen for us, and we will talk about item 6.
Did you want me to share the motions page or the agenda page?
The motion page. I'd like to read the motion that we, oh, those are the minutes.
Oh, sorry. Bear with me
Okay.
here. Best laid plans, huh?
All good.
Give me 1 sec here.
So this first motion actually is looking at analyzing homeless prevention programs. And in researching this, I thought it was actually pretty interesting how many programs there are set up to prevent homelessness, either to help people pay their rent or get deferrals or things like that. There's, I think, 6 or 7 that were just in the motion. And I did lay those out with links. So this motion is to analyze those. So I'll go ahead and just read this motion. The Board of Studio City Neighborhood Council supports Council File 220799 by DeLeon and Blumenfield, which directs the Chief Legislative Analyst, LA Housing Department, and other departments to evaluate homelessness prevention programs operated by the city, county, and LAHSA to identify which are most effective and deserving of expansion. And such programs include the Solid Ground program through Family Source Centers, Eviction Defense Program, COVID-19 renter protections, LA County Homelessness Prevention Unit, and LA Homeless Service Authority problem solving prevention programs. This motion is also to be submitted as a community impact statement, CIS, to CF 220799, and as a community impact statement to CF 220799. The link is just below that for the council file. Can I get a second on that? And we'll,
I'll second it.
thanks. So yeah, it's just really asking for an analysis of these programs to see what's effective and what's not. So I think it's a relatively simple motion to support. And with that, I'll go to public comment. All right. Lionel, go ahead.
Are we, is this for agenda item,
Number 6.
okay, regional homeless response, okay, I see it. Is this the prevention? I think prevention is very complex because many people become homeless for a variety of reasons, factors, loss of jobs, or domestic violence, or guess the cost of living has skyrocketed. That's one major factor. The cost of mortgage or rent has gone up, so the minimum wage can't catch up with the inflation. So, I mean, and in most of these programs, it takes a long time, and sometimes they never receive a response. That's the issue with bureaucracy in government, with city and county. We have to force county, city officials to do more. They need to hire more staff and to handle these cases. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment? Okay. Committee, do you guys have any comment about this? Like I said, I think it's relatively straightforward. Let's look at the bureaucracy, which ones of these have actually made a difference and which one haven't, and make some decisions based on that. Okay, so we'll take it to a vote. All those in favor?
Oh.
Am I doing that wrong? Should I take a roll?
Yeah,
You want me to take a roll?
I would.
Okay, Julie Houlihan, yes. Jeff Hartwick,
yes,
Ira Gold.
Yes.
All right, and Sandy and Marcia not here this evening. So that one will pass and we will take that to the board. On to agenda item number 7, discussion and possible motion with regard to council file 220628. This was in the news. I don't know if you guys heard about this, but I'll read the motion and we can discuss it. The Board of Studio City Neighborhood Council supports council file 220628 by O'Farrell and Martinez, which requests LA Homeless Services Authority to report on their food distribution programs that serve people experiencing homelessness and the ways in which it can mitigate any future food waste. This motion is in reaction to a CBS2 investigation, which followed LAHSA workers for months and discovered some teens throwing boxes of food meant for distribution to homeless persons in the trash. And below that, yes, is the link to the council file. Oh, this motion would also be submitted as a community impact statement to council file 220628 and as a community impact statement to council file 220628.
Julie, would you like me to keep this up while we're discussing, or should I take it down?
I think you can take it down. If any of the public folks would like to see it again, we can put it up. Would anybody second that motion?
second,
Thank you. All right, we'll take public comment. All right, Lionel.
Oh, yes, thank you. I did hear about this, and I am familiar somewhat about this. I think it's very unfortunate that LASA was caught. Maybe some employees, not all, but some were caught throwing food that was meant to feed unhoused neighbors. I think that this is why LASA has been criticized by Joe Boscaino and myself and other activists, because they're not properly using the resources that they have available. And I think that LASA management should be responsible for their employees' actions, and they should do a better job of making sure unhoused people get water, food, and a path to housing. Those are important things. And like I said, I have been critical. I reached out to Heidi Marshall before she stepped down. I criticized her management style because she.
And that's time. Thank you.
Thank you, Lionel. Anybody else from the public want to comment on that? Oh, do you want another? I'll give you another minute. Can we do another round of public comment? Lionel, if you'd like to finish, go ahead.
Oh, okay, thank you. But when I criticized Heidi, and I didn't do it in a bad way, just for a record. I know she did her best, but she faced a lot of pressure herself. So I'm sympathetic, but she was the head of LASA. So ultimately, being the head makes her ultimately responsible. One of the key players. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Bully Bull, you're up. What would you like to comment on?
It's right, yes, all of the cows that work at LASA. Yes, did you know on Channel 2, the way that they throw the food, perfectly good food in the fucking trash, yes. That's one thing amongst many. And LASA's a big failure.
What does it stand for?
The Los Angeles Housing and Bullshit Authority, LASA, yes, that's right. And we must get rid of LASA and restore integrity, like the good people of Kentucky today have made illegal encampment on public property a felony. Yes, a felony. That will get some reaction.
But then they're all going to come move here, dummy.
Ow! Ow! Oh, I did not think of that.
Dummy.
I did not think of that. Oh, our district attorney would not be capable of doing such wonderful work. You're right. So we're going to get everybody from Kentucky in a couple of months out here to fuck everything up. Yes, you're quite right. How much more money do we need? Did you see today's special Rules Elections Committee by Nuri Luisa Martinez doing business as Bimbo? There's a lot of tax provision. She's trying to steal more money from you, the taxpayers and homeowners. Yes, to give them nothing but promises that are fake. That is the way of Nuri. She came from Pacoima Beautiful, her nonprofit, a failure in the San Fernando City Council.
She goes that far back?
Yes, and she was on the LAUSD board where she continued her disinformation campaign. And now she's 400 pounds, too fat to sit down in a regular chair, stealing our money. And what are you doing? You're looking at the puppet that speaks. I cannot.
And that's time. Thank you.
Thank you. Tess,
I'm amazed.
I cannot believe it.
Hi, that's a hard act to follow. Julie, could you put the, or Ira, could you put the CIS on the text back on the screen, please? I came a little bit late. Okay. To report on their, this is true. Yes, I completely agree with that motion. There is so little accountability with these programs. It's shocking. We try to get people into housing and to services. And when you follow up, specifically with LAHSA, you're told, well, that's a HIPAA violation. You know, we can't disclose anything at all to you. To which I say, well, I'm not asking for somebody's social security, their medical records, their financial records, or their health records. I just want to know if this person that I referred to LAHSA was picked up and is okay. Does that person have the services he or she needs? So there's, in my opinion, a complete and utter failure of accountability with this. And a lot of, I think, false reasons are given for that failure and that lack of accountability. And so what I've taken to doing is when I help people personally, I make sure that I connect with them personally and get.
That's time. Sorry, I'm switching over.
Thank you.
thank you, Tess. Anybody else from the public? Okay, so we'll go to committee comment. Jeff.
Hi, yes. What I thought was interesting was when the Park and Ride had a huge encampment there about a year ago. I was speaking to one of the security personnel, and she told me that the people at the encampments there were receiving so much food donations that when the LAHSA workers came by to deliver, it's a standard meal. It consists of, I think, a piece of fruit, a sandwich, maybe potato chips or dessert or something like that, that they would routinely refuse to take the meals because they were getting meals from other sources. And I saw a guy drive up, kind of an eccentric gentleman, and he had bags of sushi from Sugarfish that he was dropping off for the homeless at that particular encampment. So I agree completely that this should be investigated. If there's waste, as fraud and abuse, we should definitely look into that. But I'm kind of curious as to how many of these meals are actually being refused. It's like the kids at school, they eat cafeteria food, and you know, how many of them just throw in the trash and don't eat it, or trade their lunches, et cetera, for different meals. So that's one thing that I just wanted to comment about is whether or not any of these meals are being refused. And if that's the case, then what is LAHSA to do with them at that point? That's all. Thanks.
Actually, I think that's a great point. And it's slightly off topic, but yeah, at LAUSD, there's always leftover food and nobody's allowed to take it home or to donate it. So a lot of it goes into the trash, from what I understand from the teachers. But see if we can support a motion on that another time. So, okay, so any other comments? If not, I think we'll go to a vote on this. Jeff Hartwick, are you in?
I'll vote yes.
Okay, Ira,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes. Marcia and Sandy not here. We have a quorum. The motion will pass. Okay, so let's move on to number 8, another motion about accountability. And this is regarding Council File 220600 S24. Sorry, it says 3 here and it says 8 on the agenda. So apologies for the number discrepancy, but this is agenda item number 8. The board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council supports Council File 220600 S24, which is a budget recommendation that instructs Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority to report to the Homelessness and Poverty Committee on performance metrics related to homeless engagement teams, including the number of individuals in each team, the number of individuals engaged by the teams, and the number of placements made by the team. This motion would also be submitted as a community impact statement, CIS, to Council File 220600 S24, and as a community impact statement to Council File 220600 S24. So the links there, one is to the motion, the other is just highlights a story about $2 million being invested in the homeless engagement teams. I think there's been even more than that since then. But I think myself, from what Luis has said and other things that I've read, people do generally support these teams. They're boots on the ground. They're people paid to help people. And I think it's just perhaps a good time to look at the metrics of what's actually happening here. So I made a comment, but I should ask for a second on the motion.
Second.
Thank you. And now we'll go to public comment. Tess Taylor.
Thank you very much. So thank you for this motion, Julie, and the committee. I would, can you switch back to the language of the motion? Because I did have a comment to refine it, including the number of individuals engaged by the teams. I would say full-time and part-time individuals, and the number of permanent placements made. All right. Because we've seen double counting or miscounting when someone is placed, but then falls out of placement or leaves placement. That person should not be counted as a permanent placement if he or she is not. And while it might be splitting hairs a bit much, it would be nice to know if they're in permanent housing or permanent supportive housing or that kind of thing. But I'm all for this kind of accountability. And I would love for you, Julie or Jeff, to send me the language of this motion so that we can put it to our council as well.
Tess, can you quickly just tell me, I know you said permanent placements.
Yeah.
What was the number of individuals? There was something.
Yeah, I would say including the number of full-time and part-time individuals in each team.
Okay.
And then I would suggest the number of permanent placements made by the teams. Because if somebody is placed, but then drops out of placement for any reason, that's no longer, I guess, technically a placement. That's a person who will once again need to be placed. And we've seen some, some funny business with those numbers in other instances. So I think that definition would be good.
Okay, thank you for that.
If you could send me the language to these, that would be terrific. Thank you, Julie.
All right. Bully Bull. Public comment.
Yes, what is my hand?
You're gonna start acting like goat puppet. I'm gonna put you back in your bag.
Oh, no. I'm very sorry. Yes, this is a good motion. Holding these people accountable, yes. You cannot throw food at drug addicts and expect them to eat. It's like a wild horse and bringing it to water and expecting it to drink. It's the same shit. These people have become feral. F-E-R-R-E-L.
F-E-R-A-L.
Ow! Ow! Yes, I was making an iconoclastic comment, sir, with Picho Ferro's name, dummy.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So, as we support this motion, we would also support a no-knock unannounced raid by the FBI on LASA headquarters, also a friendly amendment, like what they did at Mar-a-Lago yesterday. It was very pretty to see that. Yes, it was good. Today Mar-a-Lago, tomorrow Lhasa. It's the same thing.
And that's time. Thank you.
They're only the profit.
Okay, seeing no other public comment, I'll go to committee comment, and I actually have a question regarding Tess's suggestions. The motion language is exactly the language from the council file. So I guess my question would be, Jeff, maybe you can advise, are we allowed or encouraged or discouraged to add words to the file, and your feelings about that?
Yeah, we could submit whatever motion we want them to vote on. I mean, we could add whatever we want or subtract from the motion.
Okay.
Because we're a neighborhood council, we advise our city council members, how to vote for our stakeholders. So that's perfectly fine. I think Tessa's suggestions are well taken, and you could accept a friendly amendment and just add it yourself. We could also vote on it to seal the deal, and that'd be fine.
Okay. I will accept the friendly amendment. So I will, Ira, do you have anything you wanted to say?
If you're gonna, it would seem to me that if we're gonna say, yeah, we support this, we'd have to also clarify with the following edits. And I would suggest putting, because I don't believe that that the suggestions were to remove any of the words. I think it was just to add some. So then maybe SCNC supports this file with the following edits in caps. And then I would put the edits in the caps, because then it's easier to differentiate. Just an easy.
I would actually just add the edits and then open it up to public comment and then board comment and then put it to a vote, just to make everything streamlined. But we go ahead.
Yeah, but then these when it goes to the city, they're looking at so many things, and Jeff, I know you've seen tons of contracts too, right? If you're looking at one and you're looking at another, and one has the edits right there, it's just so much easier as opposed to going word for word. I think it would be received better if it's going to be received at all. I think we have a higher likelihood of them receiving it if they can most easily view the edits.
I disagree, because what we do is, because I'm the corresponding secretary, I draft kind of the motion or the community impact statement to the electeds and their staff, and then it'll state exactly what is in there. They actually read these things. Then when we submit it to the council file, we'll say support if amended, so they know that there's amended language to the council file. So I mean, they're supposed to do their job and review this. Also, in the subject of our emails to our electeds, I usually put supports this measure if amended or as amended, blah 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 blah, so they're clued in on it. So we usually don't do that sort of thing, to be honest.
Okay, so if I would like to go with your opinion on this, Jeff, and I can accept the friendly amendment, we could go to a vote. Is that correct? Or the alternative?
Yeah, but I would open up to, what I would do is I would go back to the language, add the language on the screen, and then just see how it looks, and then have public comment on that, just to err on the side of caution. We get a board comment and then make a vote.
Okay.
I can add the language really quickly on my end. Just
Okay. So after number of, add full-time and part-time. Sorry, that cut and paste that to, oh no, that's correct. That's correct. That's correct. Number of individuals engaged by the teams and the number of permanent placements.
So I don't, this is just for the purposes of our visuals for the meeting. I don't have this saved. So just.
Okay, I have it. I'm actually typing on my end. So I will have that for us. All right, so I'll reread the motion. Board of Studio City Neighborhood Council supports Council File 220600 S24 with which I think we have an extra with there, but which is a budget recommendation that instructs Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority to report to the Homelessness and Poverty Committee on performance metrics related to homeless engagement teams, including the number of full-time and part-time individuals in each team, number of individuals engaged by the teams, and number of permanent placements made by the teams. This motion is also to be submitted as a community impact statement to Council File 220600 S24 and as a community impact statement to Council File 220600 S24. May I get a second on the amended motion?
Second.
Thank you. And now we'll go to public comment. Bully Bull.
Hey, right behind the Los Angeles area, you want to put parentheses LASA. Because nobody knows what the fuck you're talking about. We all know what LASA is. And you should put that there.
That's a good idea.
Yes, of course. Because you want to be sure when you do your searches later under indictment, LASA, etc., that this will come up later as an exhibit. So that you know that you were trying to figure out how many part-time lazies and how many full-time lazies are engaging these so-called homeless
Individuals.
individuals. Yes, we call them individuals, don't we? What we should do is also break it down between tweakers, felons, and former city employees living in their cars. Yes, we're going to have a lot more of that later. Once Garcetti's in.
That's time. Thank you.
I don't see any other public comment. If I understood that correctly, it's a friendly amendment to add the acronym LASA after the words Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority. I don't have an issue with that. I'd be happy to do that. That would be under number 3. Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah, I think just write the acronym LASA there. And I'll just consider that a friendly amendment. And I think we can go to a vote. Jeff Hartwick,
Yes.
Ira Gold,
Yes.
Julie Houlihan, yes. And Marcia and Sandy are absent, but that is a quorum and that motion will pass. All right, our next motion is agenda item number 9. I'll go ahead and read it and then we can talk more about it. The Board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council supports Council File 201376-S3, Buscayano and Lee, which amends LAMC 4118, LA Municipal Code 4118, and 5611 to prohibit sitting, lying, sleeping, and storing personal property within 500 feet of a library. The text below that, unfortunately, looks, can we just strike that? I think I started to write it and didn't finish it. It's not part of the motion. Not all of that, just the lines above it. Thank you. This motion is also to be submitted as a community impact statement to Council File 22376 S3. Sorry, that should be 1376. Those numbers are incorrect. 1376 S3, and as a community impact statement to Council File 22. That's also but really bad cut and paste job. Those should both be 1376 S3. apologies for that. And just as a, or should I ask for a second before I comment?
Second.
Thank you. Today and this week, there's been a motion at City Hall to ban homeless encampments within 500 feet of all schools and daycares. It has been a very emotional and kind of a fraught motion, and but it did pass. And this particular motion adds libraries to that. It is an amendment to add libraries to that law, that ordinance. I did, before deciding to bring this motion, I did drive by Studio City Library this week to see if that was an issue for us. And there was a pretty large encampment right there on Moore Park, covering up the sign of Studio City Library. And near that, which it didn't block the sidewalk, was a car that didn't appear to be running. It was full of things and some items outside the car. So I do think that Studio City is affected by this, and that's why I thought I would bring this forward for consideration. And with that, I will go to public comment. Tess Taylor.
Thank you. We discussed this and passed a similar motion in our neighborhood council. And I think it needs to be very clear, which you've bolded here, but I think there was confusion caused, possibly deliberately, during our discussion of this item, that the homeless would not be allowed inside the library. And that is specifically not the case. And because libraries are incredibly important for people who need the internet access and what have you. So I'm glad to see that this is bolded. It's just a matter of the storing and the blocking and, you know, creating that sort of obstruction to get to a library, but not prohibiting any homeless individuals from actually accessing a library. So thank you.
Thank you, Tess. Bully Bull.
Yes, again, this was designed by Joseph Bucket Boscaino, the Italian piece of shit in CD15.
True.
So you know there's going to be problem. And of course, the word sitting gets you fucked up, because if you're allowed to be in the library and then the homeless sits down and reads his book for 20 minutes, is in violation. So therefore, it's overbroad and unconstitutional. That's right. You can only do this in places they can't enter, like a school. They can't enter a school or a residential care facility, but a library is different. You're going to have to craft this to narrowly tailor it. Yes. Otherwise, you'll be sued, and our new city attorney, Fossil Gill, will be there trumpeting the right of the homeless. Don't vote for him, or you're going to get gas gun and fucking.
And that's time. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody on the committee have a comment about this?
I do.
Go ahead, Ira.
Are we on to committee comments?
Yes, I think that's it for public comment.
I'm torn on this motion, actually. I think I'm going to vote for this motion, but I'm hoping that this doesn't take away. So me personally, I would rather see these encampments, see this type of rule enforced in communities closer to homes, closer to residences, than libraries. So I'm going to vote for it, but I'm hoping that it doesn't take away any kind of enforcement or resources from where I believe it should be focused. Thanks.
Jeff?
Yeah, regarding the Studio City Library, there's been an individual who's been living in the front of the library there on Riverside for probably a year and a half. And my understanding is the individual is service resistant, takes up that whole bench right there and has his belongings and whatnot, and has basically been living there on the premises for that amount of time. I think we do need some kind of order regarding these facilities. It makes sense for daycares and schools. It makes sense for libraries. And, perhaps it'll get some of the service resistant in programs that they really need. So this is just another tool to help enforce our laws and perhaps make the service resistant more amenable to receiving outreach. Thank you.
Okay. All right, with that, I think we'll go ahead and take a vote. Ira Gold,
Yes.
Jeff Hartwick,
Yes.
Julie Houlihan, I vote yes. All right, that motion will pass and go to the board for consideration. Our final motion tonight is brought by Ira Gold, and I would like to let him present it.
Sure. Julie, may I just tweaked a couple of the words in there. May I read the an updated version?
Of course.
Okay, since it wasn't on the, okay. The Studio City Neighborhood Council formally requests that the LADWP provide 24-hour security at their substation at the corner of Arch Drive and Ventura Boulevard. Unhoused individuals have been removing trash from the cans at the adjacent bus bench and spreading it over the LADWP grounds and public walkways, breaking and spreading shards of glass, vandalizing the wall and planters parallel to Ventura Boulevard, engaging in drug use, heroin, marijuana, etc., and sexual activity, harassing individuals who are utilizing the car charging station, and now camping out on the grounds in cardboard shelters. While LADWP periodically sends maintenance to clean the area, they're unable to dissuade the revolving group of individuals who are now sleeping on the property. This has become a constant nuisance, a health and safety issue, and has created a slum aesthetic for the entire neighborhood. The area promotes more criminal activity and invites more unhoused individuals to the property and neighborhood, many of whom exhibit mental health issues and have episodes either on property or in the adjacent public right-of-way. The amount of activity is increasing exponentially. We ask the LADWP to provide 24-hour security until such time as the habitual illegal use of the property no longer occurs. The reason for this motion is right there in the text. It's been getting significantly worse, and every week and a half or so, LADWP sends their cleaning crew, and I've actually spoken with the cleaning crew, and they're even saying that they're feeling less and less safe once they're there. When I was there last, which was just I think the end of last week, they had called for security. LADWP has their own security teams to come to the property, and he was telling me that he didn't have really much faith that they would send someone because most often when they call, they're spread so thin that they can't always show up. And when they do show up, it's only just to handle something that's immediate, and then they have to go and work the rest of their area. So because of this, it's really causing a problem in the community. And I think that because it's on LADWP grounds, I would like to have the board come and just say, hey, we as this entity are asking you to provide this step. Thank you.
I have a question about point of order I'd like to ask Jeff. Jeff, is this technically a request for action as opposed to a motion, or is it both?
Well, a motion can be both a community impact statement or a request for action. So it's technically both.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And do we need to get a second on this for discussion? I'll second it for discussion. And we can go to public comment. Bully Bull?
It's right, yes, I've seen this area. Looks like a fucking slum, yes, that is correct. but you should also send a copy to the DWP Commission. Yes, they are made up of commissioners. It's amazing that none of them have been indicted yet. So before that happens, maybe you get your security team. But they're not going to put their people out there 24 hours a day. No, unless you make a stink. And the way you make a stink is you take and you fart on the commission, get their attention, and then they'll respond. Yes, that's how it works. Because you know why the homeless are there.
Steal electricity.
That's right, they need electricity for their heaters. They like it very hot in the summer when they tweak. It's right, they need at least 105 inside their trailers to be.
And that's time. Thank you.
Okay. I don't see any other public comment, any board comment. Jeff, do you have any wisdom regarding this?
Yeah, I guess a question. If it's at the corner of Arch Drive and Ventura Boulevard, is that really DWP property or is that city property? And if LADWP does provide security, I would imagine it'd be private security. They don't really have authority to remove individuals that are on city property, on the walkways or park benches and whatnot. So they would basically be standing around, not able to do much at all. Kind of like at Park and Ride where we had county security and they really couldn't do anything except report problems to the LAPD. So I don't know that requesting the LADWP providing 24-hour security would actually do much to alleviate the problem. I think that we should request our council persons to urge LAPD, LASA, and other public agencies to provide outreach services and security to this encampment. I think it should be phrased in those terms. Because I don't think it's going to matter if LADWP provides 24-hour security, and I'm a little skeptical that they would even do that. So I think we just need to ask our council members and amend the language to have them, I guess, urge the LAPD, LASA, and other outreach agencies to provide services. Thanks.
Ira, are you open to amending this?
I don't know. We need to see if this is city property or not. It's a fairly large substation. There, to my knowledge, there's no actual office here. It's just you open the gates and it's just a whole bunch of electrical equipment. I think having, we know how long it takes for anything to get done, and since this is, I mean, in the last just 2 or 3 weeks, it's become even more of a hazard. I mean, I just saw a couple people having sex just the other day under a couple pieces of cardboard, and then one of the people picked up the purse and just walked away like it was nothing. And that person has returned several times for those types of visits, from what I can tell. So I don't have faith that phrasing it in a softer manner will help. I'm amenable to adding that in there in addition. But even if, Jeff, let's say that this is completely ineffective in terms of what the LADWP can or would do. I would still like to have the council send this to them, or with this behind us, have a representative from our neighborhood council call the appropriate people and say, hey, we passed a motion. And then I'd like to have them say, well, I'm sorry, we're not willing, or we can't do this. Because then at least an official entity has brought it up, put it in writing, it's on an official books. And that would give whichever representative the authority to give them a phone call, and not direct, but just say, hey, can we have this discussion? So yes, I'm open to putting some of those like LASA and services in there, but I don't want to take away asking LADWP to do this.
What if at the end you you say we further request the language that Jeff suggested, we further request LAPD, LASA, and our CD2 and CD4 representatives to, I don't know what I'm trying to say, point their resources or yeah, provide resources to clean the area up, or yeah.
I think as a threshold matter, we need to determine what the jurisdictional boundaries are. You know, we could easily put a phone call or email to our field reps and ask them, you know, who's in charge here. And then once we determine that, then we can tailor our motion to fit the jurisdiction that is actually responsible for this. But I think just saying you got all these problems and thinking 24-hour private security is going to solve it, they're just going to call LAPD. And if there's illegal activity going on, then that's within the realm of LAPD. They need to get on this. So, you know.
I have called LAPD. The last couple times I've called LAPD, I've been on hold for 30 minutes. The other time before that was 45 minutes. I even called 911 on something, and I was actually on hold for 10 minutes on that. And I just said, screw it, and I hung up every time. So again, I don't have faith in that.
How would private security do anything if all they're going to do is call LAPD as well?
So if the presence of, let's just assume, because you make a good points. I mean, these are valid points, but let's just assume that that they have the ability to, LADWP has the ability to hire private security, and they would do it, which, let's just face it, it's probably, chances are very slim, but let's just assume for the moment they would. Just the presence of a security officer could deter people from coming in the middle of the night and spray painting the entire wall like they do every week and a half, and that gets painted over. Could deter someone else from coming in and bringing, coming in there and having sex right there on, you know, public view. I think it could be a deterrent, and if it doesn't work, at least it's something that was attempted. I think that I would be happy to call and find out if it is city property. In the meantime, I would like to have this so that I can go to the board, and then at the board can tear it apart. The board meeting, they could add provisions to it, make amendments to it, but at least at that point, this won't have to wait another month for things to get worse.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, I'd just like to say at Park and Ride, they had security that the county hired, private security. They were unarmed. They would sit in the car. Rampant drug use occurred. Crime occurred. It didn't deter anything. And this is not going to solve the issue. What's going to solve the issue is you bring in, kind of like Park and Ride, the sheriff came in with a host team. They had aggressive outreach. The police are there to provide a presence when sanitation cleared out the encampment. And that's what finally solved the problem. So you need a kind of a plan with LAPD, LASA, Bureau of Sanitation, and LADWP to cooperate together and treat this as a joint issue. Otherwise, nothing's gonna get done. So I think it needs to be phrased in those terms rather than having rent-a-cops there who are just gonna dial 911 and not do anything. And there's no guarantee that they'll even be provided by LADWP. I don't know how their budget works with providing security, but that's not the way to go. And I think this motion is just a little too convoluted. I think it needs more work, and I think we need to develop these jurisdictional issues as well. Thanks.
I do agree that what we saw work over the past year was calling in the troops and getting the engagement. It did take a while. I mean, I think about Fruitland, you know, that people were at their wits' end at Fruitland, and there was so much grief that happened there, but we kept calling, we got the outreach. It eventually went away. I understand what you're saying, Ira, about wanting to make this statement. And I appreciate that, but I also am really feeling what Jeff is saying in terms of focusing it to hit the right people, and make sure that we're gathering the group of people that can actually do something here. At the same time, I know you don't want to wait another month to get this done. So I guess my question is, I have two thoughts. One is, can we do some mild amendments here and take it to, but can it be amended before it goes to the board again? Or should we work on this and call a very brief special session committee meeting before the next meeting? We're a small committee. I do think that we could agendize something and have a very brief meeting if you could bring it forward so that, you know, our legal representation feels good about it. I don't feel great about supporting something that Jeff doesn't think works, because I respect his knowledge of how things should be. So I don't know. Do you have any thoughts about that, Ira?
I mean, comparing this to Fruitland or the other encampments I don't feel like it's an accurate comparison. I think those encampments would need a significantly, those are actual encampments. They were. I think they were much more sensitive. They had significant number of people involved. They had actual tents. They had people living there that were there 24/7. This is not there yet. This is on the way to that. So I have constant frustration about I understand how things generally work, but I also see, while things are being planned out, while things are being researched, things just get worse. So I think certainly if we keep waiting, then yes, this is going to be something that's going to take months and months and months and months, and it's going to get way worse. There's a complex on the other corner of Arch Drive that has a 24/7 security guard. And just the presence of that security guard, they have almost no problems. They're the people who frequent this street generally are never around that building just because the security guard is there. I think also, if the police are going to come, the police are going to see a couple people sleeping there, and they are likely not going to ever catch the person who's doing the graffiti or who's kicking the glass. It's deterrence in this is going to make the difference, not response after the fact. It's not big enough for that yet. So yeah, I mean, I'm happy to amend it, but I really want something that will at least let us go to this board meeting. I disagree. I think a security guard will make a significant amount of difference. Just because it has already on the street with the same individuals who walk the street and stay there at night. So I've seen it. I've seen a different result. So I disagree. So I would like, yes, I'm down. I'm happy to help amend this, but but the message is still the same.
Okay. Let's go ahead, Jeff.
I just think we need more information about the jurisdictional issues, whether or not LA DWP can, in their budget, provide security, or maybe the city provides security. But we need to have some more detailed information from our field reps. And have you contacted LA DWP to see if this is even something within the realm of possibility for them to do? And it seems like even if this were something that could be done, it would take a long time to implement. And it just seems like there are a few characters there who really are causing all the trouble. I think we need to notify the neighborhood prosecutor about these particular individuals and our senior lead officer, because it does appear to be a law enforcement issue. But I just think more homework needs to be done to make this a motion. And you can, as a board member, can always bring a motion and place it on the agenda if Scott feels that it's, the I's are dotted, T's are crossed, and then we can vote on it. But to amend this during a board meeting, when we're probably going to have like 12 to 15 motions, that's a waste of time for the board. These things should be resolved ahead of time, either in committee or otherwise. But I think more information needs to be gathered to flesh out this whole situation. Thanks.
I'm going to go ahead. We only have one member of the public. He's had his hand up the whole time. I'm going to go ahead and let him have a turn while we absorb everything that we just talked about, and then we'll come back to the committee. So go ahead, Bully Bull.
Yes, it's right, and it's getting very dark where I'm at.
Where the hell are you?
It's a secret. I'm not going to tell you. Now, as you see the arguments, Jeff has his bleeding heart liberal side showing too closely. Ira's doing the right thing. He is slowly evolving himself to a vote for Ron DeSantis for president in 2024. He's getting there, and he's not there yet. But you'll all be there soon, yes. Even though the raid on Donald Trump was a temporary setback, Studio Sibi, in the meantime, can begin to do what Trump and DeSantis were going to start doing anyway in November, cleaning this fucking country up. And we will start at the DWP station.
That was beautiful.
Of course, yes. We want clean streets and pretty trees in our streets, not sexual acts and
And that's time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thoughts, Ira? Would you want to? My thoughts would be to add something like we did below here.
I'm happy to add this, yes.
I think we should table it until we tighten this whole motion up and get further information about the security guard issue in jurisdictions.
Would you be willing to do another brief meeting, or do you suggest that Ira bring it back or bring it without our going through committee? Or
he could bring it if time is of the essence, which he implies. He could bring it himself as a motion for the board. But these issues, if they're not resolved, are going to be asked in the board meeting, and let's make sure all the ducks are in a row. And I agree with the thrust of this motion. I just think we need to do this step by step in the proper way and get the right information. So this actually works.
yeah, this is a tough one for me, because I support your sentiment, Ira, and I want you to get action. I am concerned about a very long, drawn out board meeting situation if we don't resolve the jurisdiction. But if we pass it now and you want to further revise it before the board meeting, which I think probably you should just check on some of these things, then I'm not sure if we're being smart to pass it now. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I mean, there are several committees that put forth motions that get to the board meeting that are relatively deemed time sensitive, and that they are asked to make amendments to and discuss. So I am likely, I mean, I'll think about it, but I am likely to ask Scott to put this on the agenda. And in the interim, I don't know who I would speak with at LADWP. I mean, look, the reality is, if we just cut all let's get to the heart of what I think this is. The reality is, this probably is not going to go anywhere. The LADWP is probably not going to implement anything. And you know what? That would be unfortunate, but at least we would have something official. That's not just a complaint, but something official from a government entity, even at the level of this, of the neighborhood council, that is official. And that at least we could say that we tried something in the interim. I'm really not a fan of waiting and putting it off. I would rather, my personal, and Jeff, I respect what Jeff is saying, and Jeff makes a great point. Yes, that is something that needs to be checked on, but at the expense of time, no. I would rather put what I have out now, get it on the books, and then look at the information, as opposed to sitting and waiting another month. But that's it. I mean, I don't want to go, I don't want to take more time on this. We're going back and forth, and that's, I want to respect the committee's time on this too. But I would be happy to send this in with that on the very bottom there, to vote on this today. If you decide to table it, then so be it. I'm happy the way it is currently written right here with this thing here. So
I'm looking at it. Sorry, I'm looking at it now, and I'm actually thinking it's not in CD2. Is it in CD?
Oh no, actually no, it's CD4.
So maybe we just say, should we say Nithya Raman, or should we say CD4 representative?
CD4 reps.
Okay.
Well, I would yield that answer to someone who has more experience writing motions.
Okay.
I would add, it should be in our council member Nithya Raman to provide the appropriate resources. Well, she's not going to provide the resources. This is a little tricky because we're requesting this of a public agency. I maybe just put in elected officials, because you're really asking the LADWP to do all this stuff.
How about if I wrote,
Well, I think it should be, whether or not the private security is an option, they should still be on top of this thing.
Okay, here's my next question. If I vote to support this for Ira to push it forward, and he does research and finds out, he can amend it at the meeting or prior to the meeting, what are the rules about amending?
I think we have to bring the motion as passed by the committee,
That's what I
and
thought.
then the board would have to he's a board member, so he could suggest an amendment during the meeting, and then we could vote on the amendments during the meeting. I think that's how it would proceed.
Okay. Okay. Should we bring, unless you want to table it, Ira, I think we should bring it to a vote.
I would prefer bringing it to a vote.
Okay.
Yay or nay? I mean, I would prefer it just then rather than just table it.
Okay. Ira,
Yes.
Jeff,
No,
I'm gonna go ahead and vote yes, Ira.
Yay.
Okay.
So we will bring this to the board. I do hope that you'll do the background, so that you can answer questions and field any amendments that might be appropriate at that time, based on Jeff's wisdom that he shared with us.
Okay. I've taken notes. I will.
Okay. Okay, with that, we'll go to agenda item number 11, discussion regarding potential topics for future meetings. Anybody have any requests for that?
Committee or public?
Do we do both on that? I'm not clear. I guess, go ahead, Bully Bull. This is for potential topics for future meetings, please. You're muted.
Aha. Very good.
Now I know where you're at.
What? Oh, shit. Ah,
Too late.
okay, yeah, see. Very sorry about that. I took a field trip on my own. Well, I'd like to have some more motions to ban camping in more other places. Like within 500 feet of a restaurant or bar.
Good.
Very good, yes. Within 500 feet of any auto mechanic store, parts store, or mechanical facility. Also ban within 1,000 feet within camping within any area of a supermarket. And as you see, that covers about 65% of Studio City. And we can give that to Nithya Ramen Noodle, doing business as Nithya, the George Soros back candidate of CD4. So remember in 2024, David,
And that's time. Thank you.
bring David Rubin.
Okay. Closing comments by the committee chair. I would just say thank you guys for a productive evening. And with that, if anybody doesn't have anything else to add, we shall adjourn.
Can I add something? I apologize. I know we're so close.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I think I don't know if this is feasible, but I think it'd be a really cool idea if we put some money towards cleaning up certain areas. I'm not necessarily just talking about what I'm talking with the motion I made today, but if there are certain areas that have encampments, or that there's kind of trash in a neighborhood, areas where the house stakeholders, let's say homeowner stakeholders or people who are leasing or renting, have expressed concern over repeated trash. I think it'd be a really, really great idea if we can look into that, into the feasibility of maybe once a month until it starts to be alleviated, or on a as needed basis, send out a trash, fund a trash pickup to that area, and have a couple people go out there, pay a couple people to go and pick things up. I know I'm oversimplifying it, but we can request money from the budget to do this, and I think it would really help relations with between the neighborhood council and the stakeholders in certain neighborhoods. I also think it would potentially relieve some tension between housed and unhoused in those areas as well. So something to think about, maybe.
Okay. All right, with that, we shall adjourn. Thank you guys so much. See you next time.
Thank you, Julie. Good job. Good night.
Thank you.